Let's talk about something most players don't like to admit. You've probably watched a really good Apex player and thought, their aim is just better. Or maybe you figured they just have better teammates, better lobbies, or better luck. But if you look closely, the real difference between an average player and a good one isn't just about mechanical skill. It's the small decisions made every few seconds that often go unnoticed. Once you start spotting these differences, you can't ignore them. Today, we're breaking down what good Apex players actually do differently and how you can start doing it too. The first thing good players do differently is they don't rush for information. Most average players move first and think later. They hear gunshots and run straight toward them. They see a cracked shield and push in without checking their angles. Good players pause and scan the area. They ask themselves questions like, where's the third teammate? Who has the high ground? Is another squad close by? This simple habit prevents a lot of unnecessary deaths. Another big difference is how they approach fights. Average players take fights because they're there. Good players take fights because they're favorable. There's a huge difference. A fair fight in Apex is actually a bad fight. If it's 3v3 and both teams are healthy, same position, same cover, that's risky. They're always looking to make the fight unfair before it starts. They want better height, better angles, or at least pressure that forces the enemy into panic. They don't rely on winning straight-up aim duels unless they absolutely have to. Positioning is where the gap really shows. Watch how a strong player moves through the map. They rarely stand in open space. They move from cover to cover without thinking about it. They naturally gravitate toward high ground. They're already thinking about where the next zone might pull before the current fight even ends. Meanwhile, average players focus only on what's in front of them. Here's something subtle but powerful. Good players disengage without ego. That's hard for a lot of people. You crack someone and feel momentum building, so you push, but they recognize when momentum flips. If they lose a shield early, if they get pinched, if the fight drags too long, they reset, they heal, they reposition. They don't see disengaging as weakness, they see it as control, and that control keeps them alive to win more games. Looting is another area where you see discipline. Average players loot until they feel comfortable. Good players loot with purpose. They know what they need before they open a box. Ammo, maybe a specific attachment. They grab it and move. They don't stand still trying to build the perfect inventory. Speed matters, especially after a fight. The faster you reset, the harder you are to third party. Let's talk about pressure. Good players are comfortable in chaos because they've trained themselves not to panic when things get messy. When bullets are flying and abilities are going off everywhere, average players tunnel vision. They focus on one target and forget everything else. They widen their awareness. They track audio, teammate health, enemy positioning, and their own cover at the same time. Communication is another major separator. Even if it's just pings, good players communicate with intention. They don't spam, they don't overload their team, they give clear, timely information, and they listen just as much as they call out. They adjust to what their teammates are doing instead of trying to force their own plan every single game. Now here's something most people overlook. Good players manage their emotions. Apex is frustrating. Third parties happen, shots don't register, teammates make questionable plays. Average players let that frustration snowball into worse decisions. Good players compartmentalize. A bad fight stays in that fight. It doesn't leak into the next rotation or the next engagement. That emotional stability keeps their performance consistent across multiple matches. Another thing good players do differently is that they respect probability. They don't assume they'll win every 1v3. They don't assume enemies will miss shots. They assume the opposite. They assume enemies are competent. That mindset forces cleaner positioning and smarter peeks. Instead of chasing damage, they secure knocks. They don't gamble unless the reward justifies the risk. And here's a big one. They review themselves mentally. After a loss, they don't instantly queue without thinking. They ask one question: what actually caused that death? Was it positioning? Timing? Greed? Awareness? That reflection compounds over time. Small adjustments stack up into noticeable improvement. Good players also understand pacing. They know when to slow down and when to accelerate. Not every match needs to be played at maximum speed. Sometimes controlling the zone and letting others eliminate each other is smarter. Other times, you need to apply pressure before teams get comfortable. That sense of pacing comes from awareness, not aggression. There's no trick or secret mechanic that instantly turns someone into a great player. It's fundamentals done consistently. It's choosing cover over ego. It's choosing resets over reckless pushes. It's choosing patience over panic. If you feel stuck, don't just grind more hours. Pay attention to your decisions between the fights. Pay attention to where you stand when you shoot. Pay attention to how you react when something goes wrong. That's where improvement actually lives. The difference between average and good in Apex isn't talent, it's habits, and habits can be changed. Once you start playing with intention instead of impulse, you'll notice fights feel slower. You'll notice fewer chaotic deaths. And when that happens, you'll realize good players were never doing anything impossible. They were just doing the basics better than everyone else. If this helped you see the game differently, hit the like button, subscribe for more breakdowns like this, and let me know which habit you're going to focus on first. I'll see you in the next one.